Any Wells?
And Jackie, por favor.
V. Seems you have cargo that needs to be moved.
Oh, where I'm from, you share a bit about your soul before you talk biz. Eh? It's kind of like a custom. Or just good manners, you know.
Cyberpunk 2077 is a lot to take in. The scale, density, and detail are often remarkable. There is a commitment to the world and characters that many games of this size don't even come close to. What it's like to live in Night City is reinforced at every opportunity, from the gluttony of ads plastered everywhere to the stark beauty of the Badlands that exist outside the city walls, which is unfortunately marred by actual mountains of trash. Much like the Badlands, so many points of praise for the game come with a caveat, and that caveat is usually in the form of pervasive bugs that constantly manifest themselves in various ways.
I need your help. One last time.
One last time. Again?
Come on. Know a place we can talk where ears won't prick up to listen.
From a storytelling and world-building perspective, there's so much to applaud. It's impressive how well Cyberpunk's atmosphere works on both macro and micro levels, which isn't to say it always works. You can engage with just about anyone on the street, but doing so results in an almost comically abrupt line of dialogue, where maybe the character's mouth will move and maybe it won't. These instances in part stand out because of the care shown in other aspects. There is a tremendous amount of information given visually through meticulous style choices and spectacularly effective uses of lighting. Many times, if you allow yourself to pause and soak in the moment, it's genuinely surprising how much is conveyed about any individual or organization in a single frame. Konpeki Plaza is absolutely gorgeous, with its chic rectangular ornaments and receptionists sporting golden chrome bodies. But the high fashion also communicates a certain coldness, hinting at how ruthless one has to be to get this far. On the opposite end, the Afterlife Bar, a thriving hive of scum and villainy, pulses with so much vibrant life. Cybernetically enhanced dancers float and gyrate in tubes of liquid, and the bartender, Claire, has a disarming smile that makes the place feel welcome despite the fact that "Do Not Cross" tape is wrapped around the shelves behind the bar. The bar is awash with a turquoise glow that gives it all an overwhelming and otherworldly vibe. These are just two major examples, but really, there are so many other places that could be described in just as much detail, revealing their own insights into Night City. It communicates what is clearly one of the chief goals of Cyberpunk, that the game is more concerned with providing a lived-in experience than obsessively explaining minutiae through exposition. The idea is reinforced by how dialogue is presented. Rather than break down the language of Night City, which is filled with its own diverse mannerisms and slang, the game just throws you into situations and characters speak as they truly would, relying on context for clarity. The context is so strong and so consistently reinforced that these moments feel believable as a result.
This look like a landing pad to you? Could have fucking crushed us.
Okay, no, hey, we ain't looking for no beef with you.
Yet all of the above would mean very little if the people inhabiting the world weren't as equally interesting, and thankfully, characters are arguably the best and most developed part of Cyberpunk. While many of the major characters are fascinating on their own, what's just as worthy of commentary is how they're integrated into the player's life. These people are not just repositories for quests, but they develop meaningful relationships with your character V. Initially, they're shrouded in mystery and all of their defenses are up. Someone isn't going to tell you their life story during an initial encounter just because you happen to exhaust the dialogue tree. You are not some savior to them, just someone who might be useful in the moment. Over time, and through successfully completing jobs, people become more trusting and open up bit by bit. They may send you joking text messages, invite you into their homes, or even share a family meal with you. The game goes out of its way to express diverse facets of life within Night City, such as death, love, sex, friendship, forgiveness, and loneliness. Rather than forcing all of these topics into some sort of action set piece or overly dramatic scene, the game is perfectly content with letting itself breathe, and indeed so many of the strongest sequences come from simple conversations. For a city that oozes sensationalism out of every orifice, at the end of the day, the most compelling parts are just the people trying to navigate through the mess of it all. So it's a shame and incredibly confusing that for as painstakingly as the game builds up its world, it can at times be as subtle as a brick through a window. Fixers will pester you about trivial jobs or new vehicles constantly, and at the most awkward of times, with interactions that are about as enjoyable as clearing your inbox of spam emails. It feels incredibly artificial, being completely at odds with the engrossing storylines these messages interrupt. To appreciate Cyberpunk, it's vital to understand the lens its characters are viewed through. On paper, the not-so-distant future sounds euphoric. People can, quite explicitly, be anyone they want to be. Changing any part of a person's body is relatively trivial, an idea reinforced just by walking down a random street. People of all sorts make up Night City, and having a cybernetic arm, face, eyes, or anything else is nothing to bat an eye at. And if someone doesn't want to physically modify themselves, they can still experience whatever they want through brain dances, basically heightened virtual reality that physically and emotionally taps in to all of a person's senses. Ideally, this level of freedom would enable a greater degree of acceptance and equality, but if anything, it's done the opposite. The overwhelming result of having more options is that there are more ways to commercially exploit people. It's true that everything is available, but it also means everything can have a price tag. In Night City, identity is merely a commodity, and what's seen as most important is the ability to define and capitalize as quickly as possible. Advertisements don't try to represent a broad range of human experiences on purpose, but rather reduce everything down to the most predictable and disgusting stereotypes available. Making the world simpler than it is makes it easier to sell. Rather than accepting such cynicism at face value, you're forced to navigate through it. Sometimes that may mean being complicit and even embracing corporate rule, and other times you willingly fight against it. Considering V is an avatar you create, it's impressive how strong of a voice they have. Yes, you choose approximately what they say and their general background, but those decisions are incorporated in such a way that they shape V without diminishing them. V has such strong reactions to what's going on around them, and their background is brought up so naturally and consistently that their winding journey becomes one of Cyberpunk's most intriguing elements.
Why should I trust you? Remind me again?
Trust me, don't trust me. I don't give a fuck. It's the least of our worries anyway.
Helping that journey along is Johnny Silverhand, played by Keanu Reeves. Silverhand serves as both an angel and devil on your shoulder, and really should be the most ridiculous character in the entire game. His fuck-everything rocker persona, commitment to excess, and constant railing against corporations seem like they could be almost too straightforward. Yet it works thanks to Reeves' performance, where he both leans into the cheese and also grounds the character. There is a lot to Silverhand, a lot of pain, and Reeves finds ways of bringing that to light, handling juvenile situations and heartfelt drama with an equal amount of skill. You shape V well beyond the dialogue options chosen in conversation. As you complete jobs, kill enemies, and utilize skills, you earn both attribute points and perk points. The dual system of progression allows for a welcome amount of flexibility. Putting points into any of the attributes both enhances the stats of your character in some specific way, while also increasing how far you can go into any of the skill trees that attribute governs. Because you gain more perk points than attribute points, and can acquire perks even in attributes you're not heavily invested in, it's possible to get value out of pretty much every element of the game. To put it practically, even if someone dumps almost every attribute point into reflexes to focus on weapon damage, they can still spend perk points on hacking skill trees without investing in intelligence, making hacking a worthwhile tool regardless of whether or not it's the main focus. The system circumvents the typical RPG conundrum where there are entire aspects of combat that the player is locked out of because they built a character one way instead of another. Such versatility doesn't mean there aren't consequences or rewards for progression, though. Specific entry and exit points will be blocked off unless you have the attributes required to open the way. Or you may be able to convince someone to give up more money if you have the intelligence to do so. Whichever way you choose to go, Cyberpunk delivers some sort of payoff. With that said, it's disappointing that those payoffs aren't more creative or fulfilling. There is a rinse and repeat quality to all aspects of combat that only gets more wearisome over time. More often than not, hacking doesn't mean you're setting up elaborate traps or using your technical prowess to outthink and outmaneuver the enemy. Instead, it usually means doing damage or impairing the enemy safely from a distance, causing a minor distraction, or turning off one of the many cameras. Stealth primarily just entails hitting the crouch button and moving up behind someone to instantly take them out, as in countless other games before. It's not that Cyberpunk is expected to reinvent the wheel or that these mechanics are inherently insufficient. However, too many of the scenarios feel like minor reconfigurations of the same thing, rather than opportunities to truly make the player stop and think for a second. It doesn't help that the AI is so easily manipulated either. For a game that's all about the future, it's weird how pedestrian its encounters typically are. There are areas where combat excels. For such a dialogue-heavy, stat-driven RPG, shooting feels surprisingly satisfying. The feedback of the various guns, such as the kick and thunderous sounds they produce, lends a gnarly brutality to shootouts. It's effective enough that it helps prop up what would otherwise be mundane scuffles. At its best, there is a frenetic chaos to combat, moments when someone is trying to hack you, so you slam a health booster, run to cover, peek out, and pop some heads. Such praise is really only applicable to the gunplay though, which is a significant drawback for a game that wears choice as a point of pride. Melee combat is downright crude. While there is technically some depth, like guard breaking and parrying, even when you're trying, it feels gratingly sloppy. It's far more effective to just hack and slash like a madman, which quickly gets old. Throughout Cyberpunk, bugs are so invasive and persistent that they can affect your enjoyment of any individual aspect. This may mean erratic or unresponsive AI taking the excitement out of combat, or random goofiness during a dramatic moment in a quest. Not all of these instances are notable, but bugs can absolutely grind everything to a halt. Really, the most vital thing to recognize is just how widespread the bugs are. Cyberpunk always seems to find a new way to crack, to the point that it's difficult and almost fruitless to exhaustively catalog everything that can go wrong. While Cyberpunk has been patched throughout the review process, and will continue to be patched in the future, it still currently suffers from an abundance of issues. Our review specifically covers the PC version, but it should be mentioned that various reports indicate a gulf of differences between the PC version and console versions when it comes to visual fidelity, performance, and overall quality. Anyone planning to play on base PS4 or Xbox One should be aware that the footage in this review is not indicative of what you would experience.
You're saying it's not dangerous, but there's some risk involved.
That is one way to put it. One thing is for sure. You never get what you expect.
Consider my interest piqued.
The impulse to fall into one extreme opinion of Cyberpunk or the other is strong. There are moments when you can get so swept up with the world and characters that the very valid complaint seems small. Yet there are also moments when something will break yet again, and you'd give anything for the man behind the curtain to just hide himself better. The game's ambition is standing on very wobbly legs that feel like they could suddenly collapse at any time. There is greatness, but you have to really fight to see all of it, more than anyone should have to.
It gets you hooked. I can't give it up now.
Can't or won't.
What's the difference?
Next Gen has arrived, but we're also taking time to remember the gen that was. Tune in every other week as we take a year-by-year look back at the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. All of our videos are made possible by generous viewers just like you. If you like what you see, check out patreon.com/easyallies to help us make more.